When my husband's affair led to a pregnancy, his family told me to leave my own home. I just smiled and said one sentence. 6 faces went pale. They apologized later. Far too late. There's someone else. She's pregnant. Trevor said it while loosening his silk tie, the one I'd bought him for our 5th anniversary. Casual, matter of fact, like he was telling me he'd stop for coffee on the way home. I was standing at the kitchen island, my hands still wet from rinsing dinner plates. A plate slipped from my fingers and clattered into the stainless steel sink. The sound echoed through our open-concept living space like a gunshot. What? He didn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable. Just kept unbuttoning his cuffs with methodical precision, the way he did everything. Trevor Ashford, senior account manager at Prescott & Lane, who color-coded his sock drawer and maintained a spreadsheet for grocery expenses. Simone, you don't know her. She's 26, works in HR at the satellite office. He finally looked at me. His eyes were flat, resolved. She's 4 months along. My mother's ecstatic. You know how badly she wants a grandchild. My mother wants a grandchild. Not we. Not, I'm sorry. Not how could I have done this to you. Just the cold calculation that his mother's desires outweighed our marriage vows. I'd been working 65-hour weeks as a senior financial analyst at Mercantile Trust for 7 years. Trevor had quit his job 3 years into our marriage to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities, which translated to burning through my salary on half-formed startup ideas that never materialized beyond PowerPoint presentations and business cards. His mother, Constance, had never approved of me. Not refined enough, too career-focused, neglecting her wifely duties, as she'd said at our rehearsal dinner, loud enough for my mother to hear. Who is she? My voice sounded strange, distant. I told you, Simone, that's not what matters. He folded his tie and draped it over the back of a chair. What matters is that she's carrying my child. We've been trying for 4 years, Elena. 4 years of specialists and disappointment. Maybe it's a sign. A sign. He was framing his infidelity as divine intervention. You're blaming me. The words came out flat. Factual. I'm stating reality. The doctor said there's no medical reason we can't conceive. Stress, they said. Your work schedule, they said. He shrugged. Simone got pregnant naturally within 6 months. The math speaks for itself. The math, as if our failure to conceive was a quarterly earnings report that didn't meet projections. My family is coming next Thursday evening, he continued. 7 o'clock. We need to discuss arrangements moving forward. I'd appreciate it if you could prepare something. Maybe that salmon dish my mother likes. It'll help the conversation go smoothly. Arrangements. He wanted me to cook dinner while his family discussed how to dispose of me. I turned back to the sink, gripped the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles went white. Behind me, I heard him walk away, his footsteps confident on the Brazilian cherry hardwood floors. The floors in the house my mother had given me. I'd met Trevor 8 years ago at a charity gala. He was charming, well-dressed, from a good family, with old money and older connections. He'd pursued me with flowers and handwritten notes and reservations at restaurants I couldn't afford. 6 months later, he proposed. 3 months after that, we were married in a ceremony that cost $48,000, most of it funded by his parents, who'd insisted on a guest list of 400 people I'd never met. For our wedding gift, my mother gave me this house. She'd worked as a housekeeper for 32 years, cleaned other people's homes while raising me alone after my father disappeared when I was 3. She'd saved every spare dollar, invested carefully, denied herself everything so I could have what she never did. This is yours, Elena, she'd said, pressing the deed into my hands. Her hands were rough, scarred from decades of bleach and hard work. Registered under your maiden name, Elena Vasquez. Never let anyone take it from you, not even a husband, especially not a husband. I hadn't understood then. I was 27 and in love with a man who seemed like everything my mother had sacrificed to give me access to. I understood now. The house was a 3-story Victorian in the historic district. Mahogany floors throughout, original crown molding, a chef's kitchen with marble countertops. My mother had scrubbed toilets for 3 decades to buy me safety, and Trevor's family was planning to take it. The following Thursday, I came home from work at 6:47 p.m. I'd spent the day running financial models for a corporate merger worth $340 million, then stopped at Whole Foods to buy the ingredients Trevor had requested: wild-caught salmon, asparagus, the specific olive oil Constance preferred, a Sancerre that cost $63. I was preparing dinner for my own execution. Trevor was in the dining room setting out the good china, the Wedgwood set his grandmother had left him. He'd never let me use it for my family gatherings. They'll be here at 7, he said without looking at me. Please try to be reasonable tonight. Reasonable. The doorbell rang at 6:58 p.m. Constance Ashford believed being early was a power move. She swept in wearing Chanel and disapproval, her silver hair shellacked into architectural precision. Behind her came Gregory, her husband, a retired banker who grunted more than spoke. Then Valerie, Trevor's younger sister, with her husband Philip trailing behind like a shadow. And finally, her, Simone. She was young, blonde, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, with a small but visible baby bump. She had wide blue eyes and the kind of delicate beauty that comes from good genes and better skincare. She also had the audacity to walk into my home and smile at me like we were friends meeting for brunch. Constance fussed over her immediately. Darling, sit here. Are you comfortable? Do you need a cushion? Gregory, get the girl a cushion. They settled into my living room like an occupying force, drank the wine I'd poured, ate the cheese I'd arranged, complimented the decor choices my mother and I had made together. Trevor sat next to Simone on the sofa, not touching, but close. Territorial. I sat in in the armchair across from them. Alone, Constance spoke first. Elena, Trevor has explained the situation. I know this must be difficult, but we need to approach this maturely. She paused to sip her wine. Simone is carrying our grandchild, the first Ashford grandchild. This is a blessing, really. She said blessing the way other people said cancer. What Constance means, Valerie interjected, her voice dripping with false sympathy, is that we need to think about what's best for the child. Simone needs stability, support. She's young, and this wasn't planned, but she's pregnant now, Gregory cut in, with my grandson. The boy needs a proper home. 2 parents, not complications. Complications. I was the complication. Simone's voice was soft when she finally spoke, breathy, calculated innocence. I don't want to cause anyone pain, truly, but Trevor and I, we have something real, something that created life. She placed a hand on her stomach. Every child deserves a father and a home. She looked around my living room when she said home. Constance leaned forward. Elena, you're a smart woman, a professional. Surely you can see that the practical solution is for you to make space. Trevor needs to be present for his child. Living separately would be damaging for the baby, confusing. We're prepared to offer you a settlement, Gregory added. Something fair. You can find a nice apartment. Your job pays well enough. You'd be financially independent. Free, really, free. He was offering me freedom from my own house. I think 3 months is reasonable, Constance said. That gives you time to find a place. Pack up your things. We'll handle the divorce paperwork. No need to make this messy. Valerie's husband knows an excellent attorney who can expedite everything quietly. They had it all planned. The timeline, the attorneys, the narrative they'd spin to their social circle about how I'd been unreasonable, and they'd tried to be generous. Simone smiled at me. I really hope we can all be adults about this, for the baby's sake. That smile, that fucking smile. Something inside me cracked, not broke, cracked, like ice under pressure, revealing the cold water underneath. I stood up, walked to the sidebar, poured myself a glass of the $63 Sancerre, took a long, slow sip while 6 pairs of eyes watched me with varying degrees of impatience and smugness. Then I smiled. Not the smile of a woman who'd been defeated, the smile of someone who'd just realized they were playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. If you're finished, I said quietly, it's my turn to speak. The room went silent. I set down my wine glass, picked up the folder I'd left on the sidebar that morning, the one they'd probably assumed was work documents. First, I said, opening the folder, let's address the elephant in the room, this house. I pulled out a document and held it up. This is the deed, recorded with the county in June 2018, 18 months before Trevor and I married. The property is registered under my maiden name, Elena Vasquez. It's my separate property, legally defined as paraphernal in our prenup, which Trevor insisted on. I looked directly at Constance. Your son's name appears nowhere on this deed. He has 0 claim to this property. I let that sink in. Which means, I continued, that all of you are currently guests in my home, unwelcome ones at this point. Constance's face tightened. We know you own the house, but you're married. Second, I cut her off smoothly. Let's talk about legal consequences. I pulled out another set of documents. These are printouts of text messages between Trevor and Simone, date stamped going back 13 months, hotel receipts from the Fairmont, the Four Seasons, that quaint bed and breakfast in Mendocino where Trevor told me he was at a conference. I smiled. He used our joint credit card. I have all the statements. Simone's face had gone pale. In our state, I continued, my voice conversational, adultery is grounds for an at-fault divorce, which means I can pursue this in court, publicly, with discovery, depositions, and testimony. Trevor's employer has a morality clause in senior management contracts. I know because I reviewed his when he first got promoted. A public adultery scandal? I shrugged. Career limiting, I'd imagine. Trevor had gone completely still. And Simone, I turned to her. You knew he was married. The legal definition of alienation of affection applies. I could sue you personally for damages. Is your HR position at Prescott worth the legal fees, the depositions, having your name attached to a homewrecker lawsuit that will follow you on Google forever? She grabbed Trevor's arm, actually grabbed it. Third, I said, pulling out more documents. You should probably have checked your assumptions before coming here tonight. What assumptions? Trevor's voice was strained. The main one being that I'm desperate, broken, willing to accept whatever scraps you're offering. I paused. I went to my doctor's office last Friday. Routine appointment. I let the silence stretch. I'm pregnant too. The room exploded. Simone made a sound like a wounded animal. Valerie's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the hardwood floor, the floor my mother had paid for. Gregory started to stand up, then sat back down heavily. Trevor's face went through several colors before settling on grayish white. You're what? Constance's voice was barely a whisper. Pregnant, 8 weeks. I have the ultrasound in this folder if you'd like to see it. I actually didn't have it in the folder, but they were too shocked to ask. Constance's face transformed. The legitimate wife was pregnant, the legal heir. Everything they'd planned just collapsed. Elena, my God, why didn't you tell us? This changes everything. We can work this out. Obviously, you and Trevor should. I'm not finished, I said coldly. The room went silent again. My pregnancy, I continued, watching them carefully, isn't the biggest surprise of the evening. 6 faces stared at me. I placed my hand on my stomach. Let the moment breathe. The baby may not be Trevor's. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Trevor shot to his feet. What the hell are you talking about? Exactly what I said. I won't be confirming paternity until after our divorce is finalized. I looked at him with something approaching pity. And considering your recent different behavior, Trevor. I think any judge would understand my hesitation to make assumptions about fidelity in this marriage. It was a complete bluff. The baby was his, probably. We'd had sex exactly twice in the past 3 months, both times after he'd had too much to drink at social functions. But his guilt made him believe I was capable of what he'd done. Constance stood up, her face purple. You can't. This is my house, I said quietly. Legally mine, and you're trespassing. I walked to the front door and opened it. Anyone who disrespects me in my own home can leave. You have 5 minutes. After that, I call the police and report 6 people who refuse to vacate private property. They scrambled. Valerie grabbed Philip and practically dragged him to the door. Gregory moved faster than I'd seen him move in years. Constance was hissing at Trevor in sharp, violent whispers that I couldn't quite hear. Simone was crying, actual tears streaming down her face as she clutched her purse and stumbled toward the door. Trevor lingered. He stood in the foyer, looking at me like he'd never seen me before. Elena, please, the baby. Is it mine? I looked at the man I'd married, the man I'd supported financially and emotionally for 7 years, the man who'd thanked me by sleeping with a 26-year-old and then trying to evict me from my own home so his mistress could have my kitchen. Goodbye, Trevor. I closed the door. The lock clicked into place with a sound like finality. Through the window, I watched them pile into their cars. Constance was still talking, her hands moving in angry gestures. Simone was sobbing into her phone. I walked back into the kitchen, found the bottle of Sancerre, poured myself another glass. My hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving behind the reality of what I'd just done. I'd nuked my marriage in under 10 minutes. I drank the wine in 3 long swallows. Then I called my mother. Mija, slow down. What happened? I told her everything. The pregnancy, the dinner, the confrontation, the bluff about paternity. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Then my mother laughed. Deep, full-bodied laughter I hadn't heard from her in years. That's my girl, she said. That's my Elena. Mom, I'm pregnant and about to get divorced. This isn't funny. No, Mija, it's perfect. You stood your ground. You didn't let them take what's yours. She paused. But now you need a lawyer. A good one. I can't afford. You can. You will. Call Rebecca Torrance. She handled my friend Yolanda's divorce. She's a shark. Exactly what you need. Rebecca Torrance? Mom, she's one of the top family law attorneys in the state, and you're a senior financial analyst making $140,000 a year with a house you own outright. You can afford her retainer. Call her first thing Monday morning. I did. Rebecca Torrance's office was on the 42nd floor of a downtown high-rise with a view of the bay. She was 53, with steel gray hair cut in a sharp bob and eyes that evaluated me like a balance sheet. Tell me everything, she said. And I mean everything. Infidelity, finances, the pregnancy, all of it. I spent 90 minutes laying out my marriage, the financial support I'd provided, the house, the affair, the dinner where they'd tried to evict me. Rebecca took notes on a yellow legal pad, her expression never changing. When I finished, she set down her pen. First question, is the baby his? Yes, probably. I haven't been with anyone else. Probably isn't good enough. We need certainty. I'm referring you to Dr. Patricia Vance at Harbor Medical. She's the best OBGYN in the city, and she works with our firm regularly. Get a confirmation on the pregnancy, establish dates, and we'll arrange for a paternity test after the child is born. She made another note. Second, the house is solely yours? Yes. Deeded to me before the marriage. Perfect. That's untouchable. But he could try to claim he made improvements or paid for maintenance. He hasn't. I have bank statements showing I paid all property taxes, insurance, maintenance, everything. From my personal account, Rebecca smiled. It was the smile of a predator scenting blood. Even better. Now, let's talk about his affair. You have documentation? I pulled out the folder I'd shown Trevor's family, the text messages, the hotel receipts, the credit card statements. Rebecca reviewed them methodically. This is good, very good. Detailed timeline, concrete evidence, financial records. His lawyer is going to have a hard time spinning this. What about Simone, the other woman? Can I sue her for alienation of affection? Rebecca shook her head. Not in this state. We abolished that tort in 1993, but we don't need it. What we have on your husband is enough. She pulled out a fresh legal pad. Here's what's going to happen. I'm filing for divorce on grounds of adultery. We're asking for full reimbursement of all financial support you provided during the marriage. And believe me, I'm going to itemize every dollar. We're requesting spousal support from him based on the lifestyle he enjoyed during your marriage. And we're making it very clear that the house is off the table. What about his child with Simone? Not your problem. He'll owe child support to her, which will be deducted from his income before he pays you anything. His financial obligations to his affair baby will reduce what he can claim he needs. It actually helps our case. She looked at me directly. Elena, I need you to understand something. This is going to get ugly. He's going to paint you as vindictive. His family will try to intimidate you. His mother strikes me as the type who knows people, makes calls, applies pressure. I don't care. Good, because we're going to win. The divorce petition was filed on Thursday, April 18th. Trevor received the papers at his office. I know because he called me 17 times in 2 hours. I didn't answer. He finally showed up at the house, my house, at 7:23 p.m. I'd installed new locks on Monday, changed the security codes. He couldn't get in. He rang the doorbell for 5 full minutes before I finally opened the door. I didn't invite him inside, just stood in the doorway, my hand on the frame. Elena, we need to talk about this. These demands are insane. Insane? You want to review the itemized list of business investments I funded? The credit card debt I paid off? The car I co-signed for that's still in my name? That was years ago. That was my money. Money you spent while pursuing entrepreneurial opportunities that never materialized. My attorney added it up. $127,000 over 7 years. His face went red. I was building our future. You were spending my salary while sleeping with someone else. I kept my voice level, calm. The future you were building didn't include me, Trevor. It included a 26-year-old in my house. This is my home, too. No, it isn't. It never was. You're just mad you finally figured that out. I started to close the door. He put his hand on it. The baby, Elena. Is it mine? I looked at his hand on my door, then at his face. Get a paternity test after it's born. Until then, my medical decisions are none of your business. I pulled the door closed, locked it, listened to him standing on the other side, breathing heavily. After 5 minutes, he left. The next 3 months were warfare. Trevor hired Camden Price, a divorce attorney known for representing wealthy men who wanted to protect their assets, which was hilarious, considering Trevor's primary asset was debt I'd helped create. Camden filed a motion claiming Trevor had an ownership interest in the house based on equitable contribution to property maintenance. Rebecca destroyed it with bank statements showing I'd paid every single bill. Constance started a whisper campaign in her social circle, told people I was unstable, probably having a breakdown. That poor Trevor was trying to be reasonable while I demanded outrageous sums. I didn't care. I didn't travel in her circles. Never had. Valerie tried calling my mother, actually tried to convince her to talk some sense into me. My mother hung up on her. Simone sent me a letter, handwritten, explaining that she never meant to hurt anyone, that she and Trevor were in love, that she hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive them and co-parent peacefully. I gave the letter to Rebecca. Document everything, she said. Every contact, every call, every letter, especially if she contacts you directly about the pregnancy. Why? Because she's the other woman interfering with a marriage. If she keeps inserting herself into these proceedings, it helps paint Trevor as someone who prioritized his affair over his legal obligations. In June, I had another appointment with Dr. Patricia Vance. She was in her early 40s, with kind eyes and efficient hands. She'd been reviewing my medical history since Rebecca referred me. Your pregnancy is progressing normally, she said, reviewing the ultrasound images. 12 weeks. Due date is late December. Can we determine paternity before birth? We can do a non-invasive prenatal paternity test at 9 weeks. It's a simple blood draw from you and a DNA sample from the alleged father. She paused. I assume this is related to your divorce proceedings? Yes. Then I'd recommend waiting until after the child is born for legal purposes. NIPP tests are accurate, but some attorneys prefer postnatal testing for court purposes. Less room for challenge. What if I don't want him there when I give birth? Dr. Vance looked at me with something like understanding. That's entirely your decision. You control who's in the delivery room. In fact, I can put a note in your file right now that only pre-approved visitors are allowed. Hospital security will enforce it. Please do that. She made the note. Elena, I've worked with Rebecca's clients before. I know what you're going through isn't easy, but you're doing everything right. You're protecting yourself and your child. That takes courage. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in months, in control. The crisis came in August. Trevor's attorney filed an emergency motion claiming I was denying Trevor access to prenatal appointments and deliberately excluding him from the pregnancy. It was bullshit. I'd never stopped him from attending appointments. I'd simply never invited him. Rebecca scheduled an emergency hearing. We appeared before Judge Catherine Reeves, a family law judge with 23 years on the bench and a reputation for not tolerating games. Camden Price stood up first. Your Honor, my client is being systematically excluded from participating in his child's prenatal care. Ms. Vasquez has refused to provide him with appointment dates, refused to allow him in the delivery room, and has created a hostile environment that, Counselor, Judge Reeves cut him off, has Mr. Ashford requested specific appointment information from Ms. Vasquez or her attorney. Camden paused. He's made verbal requests, documented requests, not in writing, no, but has he attempted to contact Ms. Vasquez's OBGYN directly to request appointment information? Another pause. We didn't think that was appropriate without Ms. Vasquez's permission, so your client hasn't actually requested participation. He's just claiming he's been denied it. Judge Reeves looked at Rebecca. Counselor Torrance? Rebecca stood. Your Honor, my client has never denied Mr. Ashford access to prenatal appointments. She simply hasn't provided unsolicited information to a man who is actively in a relationship with another woman who is also pregnant with his child. Mr. Ashford has had ample opportunity to request appointment information through counsel. He chose not to. Judge Reeves reviewed the motion. Mr. Price, I'm denying your emergency motion. If your client wants to participate in prenatal care, he can request appointment information through proper channels. Ms. Vasquez is under no obligation to proactively include him, particularly given the circumstances of this divorce. Your Honor, denied. Next matter. We walked out of the courthouse into bright summer sunlight. That, Rebecca said, is what winning looks like. I gave birth on December 23rd at 3:42 a.m. A girl, 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. My mother was in the delivery room. Rebecca had arranged for hospital security to enforce my visitor restrictions. Trevor wasn't notified until after the birth. I named her Sophia, after my grandmother. Trevor showed up at the hospital at 11 a.m. Hospital security stopped him at the maternity ward entrance. I heard the argument from my room. That's my daughter. Sir, you're not on the approved visitor list. I'm her father. You'll need to take that up with the patient. Right now you can't enter this floor. He left. Sent flowers instead. Pink roses with a card that said, "Can we please talk?" I gave the flowers to the nurses Vance's station. The paternity test was conducted when Sophia was 6 weeks old. Dr. Vance arranged for a pediatric DNA specialist, Dr. Raymond Foster, who'd been doing court-admissible paternity testing for 15 years. Trevor submitted his DNA sample. I brought Sophia in for a cheek swab. The results came back in 4 days. 99.9% probability that Trevor Ashford was Sophia's biological father. I felt nothing when I read the report. No relief, no disappointment, just the flat acknowledgement of biological fact. Rebecca filed it with the court. Now we negotiate child support, she said. The final divorce hearing was in March. Judge Reeves presided. Both sides presented their cases. Camden argued that Trevor had been a supportive spouse who'd made sacrifices for the marriage, that his relationship with Simone was a symptom of the marriage's breakdown, not the cause, that my demands were punitive and excessive. Rebecca presented bank statements, credit card records, text messages, hotel receipts, a timeline of Trevor's affair that started while I was working 80-hour weeks on a major merger. She also presented my financial analysis of what I'd contributed to the marriage. Not just money, time, opportunity cost, career sacrifices I'd made to support his business ventures. Judge Reeves reviewed everything, took a recess, came back 3 hours later. I've reviewed all submitted materials, she said. Here's my ruling. She looked directly at Trevor. Mr. Ashford, you engaged in a sustained extramarital affair while your wife financially supported you. You then attempted to claim ownership of property that legally belongs solely to her. Your behavior throughout this proceeding has demonstrated a fundamental disregard for your legal and moral obligations. She looked down at her notes. Ms. Vasquez is awarded full legal and physical custody of the minor child, Sophia. Mr. Ashford will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending successful completion of a co-parenting course. Child support is set at $2,100 per month, based on state guidelines and Mr. Ashford's current income. Camden started to object. Judge Reeves held up her hand. I'm not finished. Mr. Ashford will reimburse Ms. Vasquez $87,000 for documented financial contributions she made during the marriage, payable over 5 years. He will also pay spousal support of $1,500 per month for 3 years, given that Ms. Vasquez supported him while he pursued business ventures that failed to produce income. She looked at both attorneys. The house remains Ms. Vasquez's separate property. Mr. Ashford has no claim to it, no right to its appreciation, and no grounds for future motions regarding the property. This matter is settled. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. I walked out of the courthouse a divorced woman, free, legally, financially, emotionally. Rebecca walked me to my car. You did good, she said. Most people fold under that kind of pressure. You didn't. I had help. You had courage. That's rarer than you think. She handed me her card. If he violates the custody order or misses payments, call me. We'll drag him back to court. I drove home, to my house, the one my mother had given me, the one that had saved me. Sophia was with my mother. I picked her up, held her small warmth against my chest, and walked through rooms that finally felt like mine.